Hello everyone, John Odom, drum set and percussion teacher here with Groove with Passion Drum Lessons. And today I'm going to film another video. This lesson is actually in response to a previous video that I sent, or that I filmed. And this is the video that I filmed on the exercise to separate your limbs, your bass drum from your right hand, or bass drum and your hi-hat. And a person commented and they asked if I could film a video on separating your bass drum and your hi-hat, okay? So, you know, when you're playing drums, there's all different kinds of limb independence and coordination. And one of those that we have to be able to type of coordination we've got to have to play our music is independence or separation between your bass drum and hi-hat, okay? When you're playing, let's just take 4/4 time. 4 beats to the measure. When you're playing eighth note grooves, there's different places in that measure, okay, especially with the eighth notes, where you can play a hi-hat gliss, and that's what the person was asking about, to separate the bass drum from the hi-hat gliss, okay? If for any of you who may not be familiar with what a hi-hat gliss is, that's this sound. Okay, I did actually do a video on this. Also, there are other videos available on how to play the hi-hat gliss, which is something that every drummer needs to be able to play because it's very prevalent in pretty much all styles of music. So one way you can separate this, okay, now typically in your typical basic rock groove, when you're counting, you play the bass drum on 1 and 3, snare drum on counts 2 and 4, and you're playing either quarter notes or eighth notes on the hi-hat, possibly 16ths, but we'll just stay with eighth notes for right now, okay? So I'm just going to quickly demonstrate just a basic rock groove. That's what we're going to start with. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? Just keeping the hi-hat closed, nothing hard about that. It does get more complex, of course, when we start adding in the left foot and we start putting in those hi-hat gliss sounds, right? So one beat you can play this on, because see, again, counting, and if you're watching my other videos, and I tell all my students, you got to count. Counting is what allows you and what helps you to know where everything lands, where everything is taking place, okay? So if you're counting eighth notes, you'll know when to play your hi-hat gliss. So one place that's common to play the hi-hat gliss, okay, might be on the end of 4, or right after your snare hit on 4, okay, on 4 and you can play a hi-hat gliss before your bass drum hits beat 1, right? Something like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. Now you can also practice this. You can leave the snare out if you need to, okay, to kind of break it down. You can practice just hi-hat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. When you're playing your hi-hat, a lot of us drummers, we play a rocking motion with the foot where you come back on the heel to open it and then bring the ball of your foot down on the top part of the pedal to close it. But it's an open close. Open close. Okay, now there are instances where you might leave it open. There are grooves that have that as far as a hi-hat gliss goes. But in this instance, you want to, I always tell my students, open close. Open close is what you want to do here, okay? You can play this on, let's say you could play it on the end of 1 before beat 2. And I'm actually going to demonstrate this with a cross stick sound, okay? Something like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. See? 1 and 2. Comes up on the end of 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, one difference between those two examples is in the first example, if you play the gliss on the end of 4, you can think of it like this, that your hi-hat gliss is actually leading in your bass drum. It's actually, it's right before your bass drum hit, okay? So you could say, all right, so my gliss is going to lead in my bass drum there, okay? If you play on the end of 1, then it's leading in the snare drum on beat 2. Again, there's different places you can put the gliss. How about a disco beat, where we play the gliss on the end of 1, the end of 2, and 3 and 4, like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So that would be on, I had to double check myself on that one. But that would be on the end of each quarter note. 1, so it'd be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. You can practice this with just your feet. You can leave the snare out. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. If you're playing a disco type groove, then your left foot, or if you're right-handed, or if you're left-handed, be your right foot. Your hi-hat foot can get a pretty good workout there. You know, if you're playing those 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Again, depending on how many, you know, where you want to place that gliss in the measure, right? There's also another variation, and again, I'm just going to go through some of them. There are hundreds, okay? But you can actually play it on beat 1 with your kick drum, like this. 1 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 4. Now in this case, I'm playing my bass drum on 1, and the tricky part with this is your right foot's going down as your left foot's coming up at the same time, like so. See on beat 1, like so. Right foot down, bass drum foot down, left foot comes up. So that one way you can work on that is just, of course you gotta focus, always. And you can just start playing eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 1 and. So you can focus on 1 and. But again, that's open, close. And I was actually leaving it open a little bit longer there until I actually hit my snare on beat 2. It's really depends on the song, on the feel you're looking for, and the feel you want to play. If you're going to leave the hi-hat open a little bit longer, or if it's just going to be, again, and you don't want to do it too quick. There is such a thing called a hi-hat bark, which is something like this. That's completely different, okay? That's something you're going to do in a more energetic song, maybe a rock song or something like that. If you're playing like maybe a more mellow song or a ballad or something like that, or even like a 16th note snare groove, something like this. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and how about 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 that's another variation, right? I can take the ghost notes on the snare out. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 3 and 4 3 and 4. How about we change the bass drum again? Back to cross stick, just for some variety, okay? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and when you're playing this, sometimes we may pause our eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and sometimes we just keep the eighth notes going with your right hand on the hi-hat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 You just have to be careful that you don't flam when you're playing those eighth notes. You don't want to flam with between the stick on the top cymbal and when you close it with your foot. So that's something you have to kind of work on your timing. If you're going to play continuous eighth notes, those should be steady. You're not going to change the pace or the speed of your eighth notes, okay? So I hope that helps you guys today, but that's just some ideas on playing the bass drum, the hi-hat, playing the hi-hat gliss, how they interact with each other. So for lessons, for drum lessons, percussion lessons, I teach at Orlando Fine Arts Academy. We are a music and art school, which is in Lake Nona, and we offer music lessons for most instruments, also vocal lessons, dance lessons, art lessons. I'm actually preparing to start a new class for a pre-K and kindergarten, ages 2 to 5. So I'm really super excited about that. That's going to be a music and rhythm class for the small kids. Also, I do go to students' homes for lessons. I teach privately. I also teach with lessons in your home. I also give virtual lessons, online lessons. I actually teach those from right here. And I teach with both lessons in your home and also lessonface.com. So for lessons, for drum percussion lessons, the contact information will be on the video. Thank you for watching. Hope you're all doing well. Have a great day.